India is hosting the virtual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The summit of the SCO Council of Heads of State is being chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi with Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping and Pakistan PM Shehbaz Sharif, among other attendees. The theme of the summit is Secure SCO, and Iran is set to join the grouping. At the summit, the Indian Prime Minister flagged the global fuel and fertilizer crisis. Taking a veiled dig at Pakistan, Modi condemned nations relying on cross-border terror. The summit takes place barely 2 weeks after Modi was hosted by US President Joe Biden for a state visit. Israeli forces hit the city of Jenin with drone strikes on Monday in one of the biggest West Bank operations in 20 years. At least 9 Palestinians have been reportedly killed in sporadic gun battles that continued into the evening. Since the operation began, Israeli forces have targeted a joint operations center being used by the Jenin Brigade. Now, what is the Jenin Brigade? It is a diverse group of Palestinian resistance fighters. An Israeli military spokesman has expressed that the operation could last as long as needed and suggested forces could remain for an extended period. Russia has said that Ukraine attacked Moscow with at least 5 drones that were all either shot down or jammed. Reports suggest one of the capital's main airports had to reroute flights for several hours. The Russian Defense Ministry said that 4 Ukrainian drones were shot down by Moscow's air defenses, while a 5th one was jammed and crashed into the Oyntsovo district of Moscow region. No injuries have been reported in the attack. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has appealed to international leaders to condemn the Israeli drone raids on the West Bank and protect Palestinians. Palestinian leaders have also called Israel's military operation in West Bank a war crime that needs to be named and shamed. President Abbas has called on the international community to break its shameful silence and take serious action. Palestinian Foreign Ministry has urged the International Criminal Court to hold the Israeli war criminals accountable. At least 2 people were killed and 19 others were wounded in a Russian drone attack on the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy on Monday. According to the city administration, 1 official building and 2 residential buildings were damaged in an attack carried out with 4 drones. Another air raid alert was declared in the Sumy region several hours after the morning strike. Ukrainian Air Force has warned that more drone attacks could hit the region in the coming days. Around 157 people were arrested on Monday, down from 700, following 5 nights of heavy riots triggered by the police killing of a 17-year-old teenager in Paris. The relative calm offered some relief to the Emmanuel Macron government. The country's Interior Ministry has dispatched over 45,000 police personnel onto the streets each night to quell the unrest. French Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne has said that the government's priority is to restore republican order. Russian President Vladimir Putin held a meeting with the country's top election official regarding local polls scheduled for September. The head of Russia's election body has voiced that if the situation worsened in 4 Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine, local elections would be cancelled. Putin says the regions Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia and Kherson are now part of Russia after Moscow unilaterally annexed them last year. However, Ukraine claims the annexation is illegal and void. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Ukraine's air defenses are not yet sufficient enough to protect itself against Russian attacks. Zelensky referred to the Russian strike on the city of Sumy, in which residential buildings were hit. Zelensky argued that Ukraine's air defenses should become the basis for Europe's Sky Shield. Zelensky had previously urged its ally countries to help strengthen its air defenses in the face of Russian attacks against military and civilian targets. Most recently, Lithuania bought 2 NASAMS air defense launcher systems for Ukraine worth over $10 million. These launchers will be delivered to Ukraine within the next 3 months. Thousands of protesters converged on Israel's Ben Gurion airport on Monday to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plan for judicial revamp. Israeli police removed protesters from the country's main international airport after hours of anti-government agitations. Demonstrators managed to enter the arrivals halls dancing with megaphones. They chanted anti-government slogans. Netanyahu has defended the judicial reforms as restoring balance between the various branches of the government. Four people were shot dead, while 4 others were injured in a mass shooting in Philadelphia on Monday evening. Of the 4, the 2 injured have been identified as minors, aged 2 and 13. The shooting spanned several blocks around the Kingsessing neighborhood. While the reason behind the shooting is unknown, the suspected gunman is in custody. The suspect was arrested with an AR-style rifle, a handgun, a bulletproof vest, and multiple ammunition magazines. Meanwhile, a second person was also taken into custody in connection with the shooting. It is unknown whether this person was connected with the shooter, but the police say he returned fire at the shooter. The attack came just a day after 2 people died and 28 were injured in a shooting attack in Baltimore. Taiwan's military carried out live fire drills for a second consecutive day from its strategically located southern coast as China ramps up military pressure on self-ruled island. Artillery trainees fired Stinger missiles and operated Avenger air defense missile systems at a coastal drill zone in Pingtung County near the far southern tip of the island. According to Taiwan's defense ministry, 8 Chinese aircrafts crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. Early morning on Tuesday is when this happened. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said Turkey will not lift its opposition to Sweden joining NATO unless it stops harboring groups it considers to be terrorists. Turkey has repeatedly said that Sweden needed to take additional steps against supporters of the outlawed Kurdistan Workers' Party and members of the Ankara group. However, Sweden says it has upheld its part of a deal struck with Turkey in Madrid last year aimed at addressing Ankara's security concerns. The burning of a Quran in Stockholm last week during the Eid holidays has further angered Turkey. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak welcomed Bahrain's Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa to 10 Downing Street on Monday. Following their meeting, Bahrain and the UK signed a memorandum of understanding which will see the Middle Eastern country invest over $1 billion into Britain. Sunak said the agreement marks the next chapter in the historic and close relationship between the UK and Bahrain. Iranian protesters gathered at the Swedish embassy in Tehran on Monday to demonstrate against the burning of a Quran outside a mosque in Stockholm. The demonstration took place after a man tore up and burned a Quran outside Stockholm's Central Mosque last week on Wednesday. Iran's foreign ministry has condemned the incident and said it was an insult to the most sacred Islamic sanctities. Senegal President Macky Sall will not run for re-election in the 2024 polls. This ends widespread speculation that he would seek a third term, which his critics said would have been illegal. Rumors of Sall trying to extend his stay in power had fueled bouts of deadly unrest since 2021, in which dozens have been killed. The most recent unrest was sparked last month by the sentencing of popular opposition leader Ousmane Sonko to 2 years in jail in charges stemming from an alleged rape. S&P Global Ratings has praised the strong credit position of Indian companies. Thanks to robust economic growth and healthy corporate balance sheets, with aggregate EBITDA projected to rise by around 50% in fiscal 2024 and stable debt levels, credit quality has improved. S&P attributes this positive outlook to domestic demand and sectoral recovery, outweighing global economic challenges. India is expected to lead the region with economic growth rates of 6% in 2023 and 6.9% in 2024. Strong onshore liquidity helps offset external funding conditions, though rising capital expenditure may slow deleveraging. S&P forecasts a decline in the median debt to EBITDA ratio, reflecting improved credit health for Indian companies. US factory activity has contracted for an 8th consecutive month, reaching its weakest level in over 3 years. The Institute for Supply Management's manufacturing gauge fell to 46, the lowest since May 2020. This prolonged period of readings below 50, indicating a decline in activity, has not been since the 2008-2009 financial crisis. The decline in production and new orders suggest a weak demand for merchandise, leading to a decrease in employment and order backlogs. The latest data reveals a 3-month low in the ISM gauge, with fewer producers adding to payrolls. Let's get you some weather update now. Heavy rains have triggered widespread flooding in southwest China. Reports suggest that authorities dispatched rescue personnel to evacuate residents. No casualties have been reported due to the floods. China's weather agency has said that heavy rain is expected to continue in parts of southwest China. 189 rivers across the country so far have seen excessive flooding this summer. Meanwhile, over in Canada, wildfires continue to burn, sending curtains of haze on both swaths of country and the neighboring United States for weeks. Canadian officials say it is the nation's worst wildfire season ever, and they expect the air quality to remain a concern through the summer. Meanwhile, NASA is reporting that smoke from wildfires in northern Quebec has reached Europe. NASA says satellite imagery showed smoke extending across the North Atlantic Ocean to the Iberian Peninsula, France and other parts of Western Europe. Canada has already surpassed the record for area burnt. There are 490 fires burning nationally, with 255 of them considered to be out of control. Britain's National Weather Service has said that last month was the hottest June on record in Britain. Britain's Met Office said the average mean temperature of 15.8 degrees Celsius in June was the highest in a series going back almost 140 years. Last year, Britain recorded its hottest ever day when temperatures surged past the 40 degrees Celsius mark for the first time. The forecasters have described this occurrence as a direct result of climate change. Lovers of the night sky were in for a treat when supermoon, which is also known as the buck moon, illuminated various cities across the world. The supermoon is a unique phenomenon that occurs when the full moon coincides with its closest approach to Earth in its elliptical orbit. The moon appears slightly larger in size, even though the naked eye may not be able to see the size difference between a typical full moon and a supermoon immediately. Archaeologists unearthed artifacts at an ancient Mayan settlement in Guatemala. The excavations are now shedding new light on the civilization and its possible ties to other cultural groups. The findings reportedly stretch back to the so-called middle to late pre-classical Mayan era from around 1000 to 350 BCE. That dates these artifacts to some 500 years before the classical peak of the Mayan civilization. Archaeological work at the site has already unearthed evidence of over 400 settlements spread across 132 square meters.